Tanystropheus. Tanystropheus lived 242 million years ago in the warm Tethys Sea, and it was bizarre even by prehistoric standards. Its total body length reached about 6 meters, which sound impressive until you realize that 3 of those meters were entirely neck, a rigid, broomstick-like structure 3 times longer than its torso, balanced by a tiny head at the end that was barely proportional to the rest of the animal. Fossils were first discovered on the border of Switzerland and Italy, and scientists spent decades confused about whether it was a land animal or a sea creature. A 2020 study in the journal Current Biology finally resolved the debate by confirming there were actually 2 morphs: smaller juveniles that lived on land eating insects, and larger adults that moved into the sea to hunt fish and squid. The reason Tanystropheus makes this list is that its body plan, absurd as it looks, was clearly successful. It survived in warm, shallow marine environments, and its basic design requires no deep ocean, no extreme pressure, and no lost habitat. If something even remotely similar existed today in some deep, poorly surveyed body of water, it would look exactly like the kind of sea serpent witnesses have been reporting for centuries. Helicoprion. Helicoprion survived the worst mass extinction in Earth's history, the Permian-Triassic event, known as the Great Dying, which wiped out roughly 90% of all marine species 252 million years ago. And it did so while carrying what is arguably the strangest weapon in the entire fossil record. Its lower jaw housed a spiral tooth whorl, a continuously growing ring of serrated teeth that curled inward as new teeth replaced old ones, creating a buzzsaw of layered dentition that scientists spent over a century arguing about. A 2013 three-dimensional reconstruction of a preserved skull specimen from Idaho, which contained 117 individual teeth in its whorl, finally confirmed the spiral sat in the lower jaw, capable of slicing through soft-body prey like cephalopods with a single rotation of the jaw. Helicoprion was shark-like in overall body shape, reaching 8 to 15 feet in length, and its fossils have been found on every inhabited continent, from Australia to Norway, suggesting it was a highly adaptable open ocean predator. The reason it feels unsettling is not its size, but its weaponry. There is no modern analog for a rotating jaw blade, which means if one turned up today, we would have absolutely no reference point for what we were looking at. Dunkleistus. Dunkleistus torelli was not a fish with teeth. It was a fish with something arguably worse. 2 massive bone plates in its jaw that formed self-sharpening blades, continually honing themselves against each other the way scissors sharpen their own edges. A 2016 study estimated the bite force at approximately 8,000 pounds per square inch, comparable to a large crocodile and potentially the strongest bite force of any fish that has ever lived. It was an armored placoderm, meaning its skull was fused into a solid bone helmet attached to a cartilaginous body below. Fossil records from the Cleveland Shale in Ohio show it was absolutely cannibalistic, with bite-marked Dunkleistus remains found alongside others of its kind. Its actual size is now debated. Older estimates push 9 to 10 meters. But a 2023 study revised this downward, suggesting a more compact build of around 4 meters for most individuals, still larger than a great white shark. It went extinct during the late Devonian approximately 358 million years ago, likely due to oxygen depletion in the shallow seas it hunted. There is no deep ocean equivalent today. There is no animal on Earth with self-sharpening bone blades for a mouth. That absence is one of the few things the ocean has going for it. Elasmosaurus. If you want to understand where the Loch Ness Monster mythology comes from, look at Elasmosaurus. This late Cretaceous plesiosaur, which swam through the inland sea that once covered much of North America around 80 million years ago, had a total length of approximately 14 meters, and 7 of those meters were pure neck, supported by 72 individual vertebrae. For context, a giraffe has 7 neck vertebrae. Elasmosaurus had 72. Its head was tiny relative to the rest of the animal, perched at the end of an absurdly long, graceful neck that swept through the water gathering fish and invertebrates. It became paleontologically famous for the wrong reasons. When American paleontologist Edward Drinker Cope first described it in 1868, he attached the skull to the wrong end of the skeleton, placing the head on the tail, a mistake so spectacular it contributed to one of the bitterest academic feuds in the history of science. If an animal with this body plan still existed today, it would look exactly like every Nessie photograph ever taken, a long neck cresting above the water, a small head, and the suggestion of a vast body underneath. It doesn't exist. But the human is seeing something like it would not know that. Kronosaurus, named after Kronos, the Greek titan who devoured his own children. Kronosaurus was a pliosaur that hunted the ancient seas of what is now Australia and South America around 110 to 100 million years ago. Its skull alone measured approximately 2.4 meters in length. The total animal reached somewhere between 9 and 11 meters, but the defining feature was its head, disproportionately massive relative to its compact body, lined with conical teeth up to 30 centimeters long, capable of crushing turtle shells, other marine reptiles, fish, and ammonites. Unlike the long-necked plesiosaurs, pliosaurs like Kronosaurus were built short-necked and fast. Essentially, a crocodile's attack efficiency scaled to whale proportions, powered by four massive flippers. It was first discovered in Queensland, Australia, in 1924. It was the apex predator of its time, and the sea it hunted in was a real ocean, not a shallow lagoon, the same open water environment that covers most of the planet today. The thought experiment isn't idle. Deep ocean surveys cover only a fraction of actual ocean volume, and a fast-moving, short-necked predator of this type would leave almost no surface trace. Liopleurodon. Liopleurodon is simultaneously one of the most famous and one of the most exaggerated prehistoric sea creatures ever depicted. The BBC's 1999 documentary, Walking with Dinosaurs, portrayed it as a 25-meter leviathan, roughly the length of a blue whale, capable of outswimming almost anything in the Jurassic Sea. The real animal was impressive, but considerably more modest. Scientific consensus places most Liopleurodon individuals at around 6 to 7 meters, with some possibly reaching 10, though fossil evidence of the larger end is limited. What is not disputed is the jaw. Liopleurodon's skull made up roughly a quarter of its total body length, and its bite was adapted for ambushing large, fast prey in open European waters around 155 to 165 million years ago. Fossils have been found in England and France. It had 4 large paddle limbs that generated extraordinary thrust and maneuverability. Think of a torpedo that could steer sharply in any direction. The exaggerated version from television would be impossible. The real version, however, was a precision predator with a head the size of a small car. And at 7 meters in open water, there would be essentially nothing you could do about it. Basilosaurus. Basilosaurus is perhaps the most unsettling entry on this list because of what it actually was. Not a reptile, not a fish, not a dinosaur, but a whale. One of the earliest whales, dating to the Eocene epoch between 37.8 and 33.9 million years ago. Basilosaurus grew to 18 to 20 meters in length with a body shape radically unlike any modern cetacean. Long, serpentine, eel-like, with a proportionally small skull at the front of an almost impossibly elongated torso, and tiny vestigial hind limbs 35 centimeters long, dangling uselessly toward the rear. Scientists know from bite marks preserved in fossil skulls that Basilosaurus killed by crushing the heads of its prey, smaller whales, sharks, and large fish, leaving unmistakable evidence in bones found at Wadi al-Haytham in Egypt, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, nicknamed the Valley of the Whales. The name Basilosaurus means king lizard, and was a mistake made by early researchers who assumed the giant bones belonged to a reptile. Modern whales are its descendants, still carrying vestigial pelvic bones internally as an evolutionary echo of Basilosaurus's hind limbs. If it surfaced today, every ancient sea serpent account in maritime history would suddenly seem a little less like mythology. Megalodon. Megalodon is the one on this list that needs a myth corrected before it can be explained. It is not still alive. It is not hiding in deep water. It went extinct approximately 3.6 million years ago, and we would know beyond any doubt if it still existed, because it ate whales. Modern whale populations would show catastrophic predation evidence. Deep-sea sonar would have captured it, and the fishing industry operating at depth would have found its enormous 7-inch teeth in nets long ago. The 2014 Discovery Channel special claiming it still lived was a scripted mockumentary, a fact the network eventually had to apologize for. What Megalodon actually was is extraordinary enough without fiction. An 18-meter shark with a bite force estimated at up to 40,000 pounds per square inch, roughly 10 times that of a great white, capable of biting a humpback whale in half at depth. It was the apex predator of the global ocean for nearly 20 million years. Its teeth, triangular, serrated in the size of a human hand, are still found washing up on beaches today because shark teeth are dense enough to fossilize readily. It is gone, permanently and completely. But the fact that something of that size, with that bite force, actually existed for 20 million years in the same oceans we swim in today, that's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. If you want to see more, click the video on screen.